Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We are learning Mishnah Nedarim, and we are about to begin Perek Yud, chapter 10. Now, before we begin, we need an introduction here. So, and I will be, reading here from the introduction that they have here in the Art Scroll Mishnah. The Torah teaches that a father has the right, under certain conditions, to cancel his daughter's Nedarim. When a woman marries, that right passes to her husband. Okay, there's a power of a father to undo or cancel. We used to try to remember the word cancel. His daughter's Nedarim, and a man has the ability, under certain circumstances, to cancel the Nedarim, the vows, or the shwur, the oaths of his wife, father of his daughter, and a husband of his wife. Now, cancellation of a dara is called hafara. That's what it's called. What we've been speaking about until now, that you can annul a neder through a sage, through a beis din, is called hatara, creating a permissibility. And when you're dealing... Correct. Now, the way that a hataras nedarim works is because the point of the sage or the people involved in the rabbinical court that are annulling this vow, they basically have to consider a way of seeing the neder made by mistake. And when they see the neder made by mistake, it is retroactively annulled. It's like it was never made. Hafaras nedarim, a father or husband canceling a neder, has nothing to do with mistakes. It has to do with the fact that the father and the husband have the ability just to cancel a neder. And when they cancel that neder, it's not retroactive. It's from then on. And the difference being that if, let's say, a person makes a neder, breaks it, doesn't keep it. If they get a heter on their neder, hataras nedarim, like from the chacham, from the sage, retroactively it's gone, they never did anything wrong. However, if you're talking about hafaras nedarim, so if, let's say, the daughter made a neder, she broke it, she didn't keep it, and then later on the father cancels it, she transgressed the neder, because the cancellation, whether it be the father or husband, is only from then on. Now, I'm going to read to you from this. This is also very important to know. Other differences between annulment and cancellation are: one, a neder can be annulled at any time, whereas a father or husband can cancel a neder only on the day he hears about it. Torah says that. Okay, hataras from a chacham can happen whenever, while a father or a husband can only cancel a neder on the day they hear about it. That's number one. Number two, any kind of neder can be annulled any kind of neder can be annulled, right? A chacham can, any kind of neder, he can find an opening or a regret to annul it. But a husband, and according to most authorities, a father, can cancel only certain types of nedarim. Those nedarim that cause her personal suffering or affect the relationship. For example, a neder that forbids her from cohabiting with her husband, or a neder that forbids her from taking any benefit from her father. These are the kinds of nedarim that can be canceled, specifically falling under this category. Okay, that's number one. Number two, a girl's stage of maturity. A father's control over his daughter's nedarim depends on her age. Okay, there are 3 stages in the life of a maturing girl. If she's a katana, a minor, typically her nedarim don't count. However, if, let's say, she is 11, let's say we're talking about a girl. The girl is 11. If we see that she is mature enough to understand that she has made a neder to Hashem, we check her out. Her neder is valid. If she does not understand the neder significance, it is not valid. Okay? Once she becomes a nara, which means once she hits bas mitzvah age, and 6 months after that, her nedarim are always valid, whether she seems to understand the significance or not. And therefore, in any of these situations, whether she's a katana if she's a katana whose neder doesn't mean anything, there's no need to cancel it, right? But if, let's say, she's a katana who reached the age that her nedarim count, or she's a nara, then the father has the ability to control her nedarim.
This is 12 to 12 and a half.
Right, meaning either from, call it 11, if she understands how to, if she understands the significance of the Nedarim, and if, let's say, she at the age of 11 she still doesn't get it, at 12 automatically she's considered mature enough that her neder works. And between 12 and a half, he is going to have control over her neder. So now listen, this means that on the day he hears that about her neder, he can approve it or cancel it. He can approve it by saying it, which means it can approve it by saying or thinking, it shall be approved for you, or you made a good neder. He approves it. Okay? Or and if he doesn't do that, by the time the day is over, he may not cancel it anymore. If he cancels it by saying, wait a minute. Right. If he cancels it by saying, it shall be canceled for you, or forget it, nothing to talk about, this thing doesn't count. All right, then he canceled it. What if he didn't say anything? What if he remained silent? If he lets the day go by and says nothing, he is considered to have approved it and may no longer cancel it. Once she hits 12 and a half, she's called a begeres, and the father has no more domain over her nedarim. Now, regarding a husband's domain over his wife's nedarim, that domain only takes place after nisuin, right? We've spoken many times about that a Jewish marriage has two parts: erisin, nisuin. Erisin is what we do when the chassan gives a ring to his kala. That's called kedushin, erisin. And although we loosely translate that stage as betrothal, it is much more than betrothal, because she's really married to him. The only thing that they can't do is live together. And then they go to the chuppah. That's called nisuin. She's completely his wife. After nisuin is when he can cancel her nedarim.
Instead of the father.
Right, instead of the father. Correct. That's exactly the point. It's out of the father's domain and it's into the husband's domain. And what about during the stage of erisin? Who has domain then? Before the nisuin, she's somewhat married, somewhat not married. Who has domain then? Correct, both of them. Because a girl, even after, again, nowadays we do erisin and nisuin together. But there was a point of time where you could have a very long break between erisin and nisuin, even like a year's worth. During that period of time of erisin, she's by the father. But at the same time, she's married to the man. So therefore, they both have domain over her nedarim, and they both have to annul it.
Jointly.
Correct. They both have to do it. They both have to hear about it that day, and they both have to cancel it. Now, a father can accept kedushin for his daughter who's a katana or a nara. Okay, so if, let's say when we talk about here that they're going to share, the power of canceling the neder, it can mean in a case where the katana, when she's not bas mitzvah yet, she's 11 years old, but her neder counts, and she's betrothed to this guy. They both have to. Or let's say the age of a nara. A father can marry off his daughter who's a nara too, between 12 and 12 and a half. Those would be the ages by which we would say that they share. Now, let's say she is a, okay. Now, let's say the father accepts her kedushin when she was younger, right? When she was, let's say she was 12 and 5 months, right? A month later, she turns into a begeres. She's out of the father's domain. But let's say she's only has kedushin. She only has erisin. She didn't go to the chuppah yet. Okay, who's gonna control her nedarim then?
Both.
No. Number one, she's out of the father's domain completely. Even though she may still be in his house, she's out of his domain. Okay. At the same time, the Arish, though, does not have power to cancel her nedarim by himself. She's not completely in his domain. She's not completely married to the guy. And if she's not completely married to the guy, he can't just go ahead and annul the neder on his own. Therefore, her nedarim cannot be canceled by anyone until she performs nisuin. Okay. Now let's read the Mishnah. Nara hamarasa. a Nara, that means a girl between the ages of 12 and 12 and a half, who is betrothed. Erison was made on her. Avia ubala mafir nidareha. The wording is her father and her husband annul her vows. Now, being that this phrase, her father and her husband can annul the vow, you could have thought to read it and say it means her father or her husband can annul the vow. Therefore, the Mishnah elaborates, Hefer ha'avla hefer ha'bal. Let's say the father canceled, the husband didn't. Hefer ha'bavla hefer ha'av. The husband canceled, the father didn't. Ein mufar. It's not going to be canceled. You need both of them to cancel. And you don't even need to talk about in a case where one of them, not only didn't he not cancel it, he actually went and he affirmed it. He said, approved. At that point, of course, once he approves it, there's nothing to talk about, that the other one can't do anything about it anymore. If a father or husband hears about a Nedarim made by his daughter or wife and approves it, he can no longer cancel it, right? That idea of approving it goes both by the father and the husband. Since the Nedarim of betrothed and Arba can be canceled only if both her father and ours cancel it, once one of them approves it, it can no longer be canceled. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.